Hello. In this video, I'm going to go through a piece of work that a student has been working through. There's going to be a lot of various little corrections here, and I don't know if we're going to get to end product, but we're going to just highlight some things we've been learning so far. So we're going to start from the top and work our way down. So just a little quick description of what this is. This is exercise 3 in our class, and what we're doing is we're creating an interface for someone going to the movie theaters. So this is by. So first thing I notice is that we don't have the by created on, right? We need to put these things in our class header because this tells someone that uses the program what the exercise is. So even better, we'll put description, exercise 3. Okay. Again, there are lots of standards that have been developed for adding comments and headers. Depending on where you work, if you end up getting a job programming, you want to be aware of what the standard is there. So what the student has done is they've created a scanner object to take inputs, okay, and then they've created some variables, okay. So we don't quite know yet what those are. So something the student could do here is they could add comments. So comment on what each of these variables does. Okay. So I'm guessing total. It keeps track of total cost. Okay. And then I'm not sure what these are here for yet, but we'll talk about that. So we come down here, and the first thing the student does is take input for age. So notice how I'm adding comments through this. This is something you could do as you program this. And what do I notice here? I notice that they're actually combining two things. This line here uses a GUI interface to take an input. This line here uses the console. So if I run this, what's going to happen? Assuming that it runs. Here it goes. There it is. So they've created this show confirmed dialog that says, are you older than 65? Not what we're looking for exactly in this case. What we're actually looking for the person to do in this program is we're looking for them to actually input their age. So just for the sake of this example here, let's just put yes. And then you'll notice the program kind of pauses. Because what's happening now is that once this is the GUI part that pops up, now the program waits for the user to put an input. We don't want to take inputs from console if we're using the GUI. So for the sake of this discussion, I'm actually going to remove the GUI part. And I'm going to start with just a system.out.println, something like welcome, and then we can do system.out.println, how old are you, right? So now I'm going to take s.next, and if I want my age, that's going to be an integer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to delete all the variables. Let's make it an integer, and we're going to call it age. And this stores the age of the user. Okay. So now we're going to say age is equal to s.next int. So now we're going to have a variety of errors here because ants doesn't exist anymore. So let's just, for the moment now, I'm just going to comment out everything else after this. Oops. So remember, a quick way to comment when you're programming is you can comment using a slash star, and then you can come down here and do a star slash. We have one too many braces there. There we go. This is the end of my class. We want the end of my class to be lined up. So if my class, the P for my class is right there, this is the end of my class. The bracket should be lined up. My main starts here. I scroll down. The main should be closed there. The ending brace lines up with where the header is written. That's for your inspection, so I can really quickly see what's inside of the main. So again, let's just take a look at this commented code in here. The student has tried to check if the answer equals yes, and really they've taken the wrong approach on this. What we want to do is we want to take the input for their age and then make a decision of how old they are based on that input. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to get rid of all this. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of this option pane. Again, I've made the choice to only use console. I'm not doing any GUI pop-ups. I would strongly recommend you stay away from GUI pop-ups until you get comfortable with the logical thinking in this. So I'm just going to pause this for a second. I'm going to pull up a OneNote where I can draw on it for a second to talk about something. So what we've done now is we've taken an input for age, right? And now we want to do some conditional statements to kind of figure out how old they are and then assign the price accordingly. So if we think of a number line here. So there's my number line, okay? And so this is, I think our age distinction in this question are 12, and our age distinction here is 65. What we need to do is we need to figure out if they're less than 12, because if they're less than 12, I believe they're charged $5.50. We have to figure if they're between 12 and 65, and the charge I think is 8 something. I don't know if these are what the assigned, oh no, I think it's 11. Let's say 11. The numbers are actually not as important here. 11.50, and if they're older than 65, the charge is going to be, let's say $8, whatever. Okay, so forget about computer science for a second. Imagine that someone has an age in their head that they've imagined, so you don't know their age, and you can ask them a set of yes and no questions. What's a yes and no question that you might ask right now so that you can know their age right away? And so a couple of examples of what could I ask them. I could say, I could ask them older than 12, older than something. I could ask them if they're younger than something. So are you older than 12 or younger than 12, let's say. So these are the two questions we could ask. Well, if I ask them if they're older than 12, they might be in it. That's going to account for this section right here, all up there. So if I ask if they're older than 12, notice they might be an adult or they might be a senior. But if I ask them if they're younger than 12, that means for sure they're a child, so I can then figure out the price. So a lot of things now is asking the right question. You know, I could do the similar thing with 65. I could say, are you older than 65? And if they answer yes, then I know they're older than 65. So we're going to put this into our conditional logic. So let's come down here to my program. There it is. So I'm going to I'm going to ask them, are you younger, or in this case, is age less than 12? So I'm going to do an if statement. If age is less than 12. Well, if age is less than 12, then the total is equal to total plus whatever the price is. So if I take a look back here, I think I said the price was $5.50. That's what it is there. So total is equal to total plus $5.50. There we go. Well, a couple things I want to highlight. Notice that this brace here is lined up with this I, so that tells me this is the if structure. Anything inside the if structure is tabbed in. And part of this assignment is to use constants. So what I want to do is maybe I want to prompt, I want to say something, system.out.println, you are charged $5.50 for a child ticket. Okay? Now notice, I have to add $5.50 to the total, and I have to print it out here. Let's say one day inflation happened, and now tickets are $6. I'm going to have to make two changes to my program. I'm going to have to change it here, and I'm going to have to change it here. So what I can do then is I'm actually going to make a constant final double maybe child cost, and I'm going to put $5.50 in there. So what I can do now is I can actually, instead of writing the exact value, I can put child cost here. And here, instead of saying you're charged $5.50, I can say you're charged child cost. Because what that does for me now is it means that if I run this program, and let's say it says, pops up, it says how old am I? Take a little slow and running here. I have to drag this up. There it is. How old are you? I'm 11. You are charged 5.5 for a child ticket. Okay. But if, let's say, the price became $6, I can make one change up there, run it. How old are you? I'm 11. And the change occurs without having to do any modification of my code down here. That's one of the benefits of constants. By making one change at the top, it affects things later in the program. And now I probably want to put a $sign here. So let's pop back to that image. So I've asked, are you less than 12? And if they answer yes, we know how much it charges them. So what's the next question I could ask that I definitely know the answer? Well, there's a couple now. I could say to them, are you older than 65? Because I say, I'll come back into here, there we go. And now I'm going to add another if. But I could do if age is greater than 65. I could do then system.out.println, you are charged. Now I'm going to put the exact same thing here, but I'm going to put senior cost for a senior ticket. So I'm going to come up here, make another constant, and I think a senior I said was $8. Ooh, I put 6. Okay, so now I'm going to say total is equal to total plus senior cost. Now you're going to notice I'm adding total is total plus. This is a self-referencing assignment statement because I want to add the total. I could if I wanted here, I could simply put total equals child cost, total equals senior cost, because I have no actual cost associated with it yet. However, it's important to note that when you select the food item they want, you're going to have to add on to total. So that's the case where you need a self-referencing assignment statement. This isn't necessarily the most efficient, but it's just something to kind of remind us that we're taking whatever's in total and adding senior cost to it. Oh, that shouldn't be 16, that should be 65, pardon me. So now we've accounted for two cases. If they're greater than 12, or if they're less than 12, which is here, and here is if we're greater than 65. Now, if a student is less than 12, the person coming in is less than 12 years old, I don't need to check if they're greater than 65. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this if statement to the if block up here by making it an else if. And what this means is that if this is true, it skips this and jumps down to the end. Okay, that's a really subtle idea. Else ifs mean that we only check it else ifs if the if statement above it fails, or the else if above it. So let's come back to our diagram here. So I see we've said, are they less than 12, and we know the cost? Are they greater than 65, and we know the cost? So now we think if they're less than 12, if they're not less than 12 and they're not greater than 65, they have to be between 12 and 65. So now I'm going to come back in here. So I could put something like an else if here. I could say else if age is greater than or equal to 12 and age is less than or equal to 65. I could put something like that there, which accounts for the adults. And I could take, and we're going to say this is going to be adult cost. Adult cost. And we have to come up here and make an adult cost. And I think whatever I said it was. Again, the cost doesn't matter here. I realize I'm not getting the exact values specified in the assignment. So we come down here, so now we have this. So now what we've done is we've told the system to charge the person the appropriate amount based on their age by setting up this group of if statements. So if this fails, then we check this. If this fails, then we check this. Now we can improve this. We can put a bunch of ifs, else ifs together, but we can also put an if, else if, and what's called an else. If the student isn't less than 12 and they aren't greater than 65, this condition has to be true. So why bother having the computer check it? Just put an else here. So now we'll calculate the adult cost. So I could do system.out.println. Your total cost is currently plus total. Okay? So now I'm just going to do the coupon part. So I'm going to say system.out.println, do you have a coupon? Because I want to talk about that self-referencing assignment statement, why it's useful. So do you have a coupon? And so let's come up here and we're going to say, we're going to make another variable called string, called coupon option, and we're going to have that equal to no right now initialized. Okay, so this stores if the user has a coupon. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say cop is equal to s.next. So I'm going to take an input for the coupon. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if that coupon, if they have a coupon. So I'm going to say if, and again, remember, since C option is a string, I can't do this. I can't do that here because this would compile okay, but since it's a string, that won't work. To check strings, we need to use a built-in method. So I type the name of the string, I put dot, and the method we're using is equals ignore case, because I don't care if the user puts capital YES, small YES, so I'm going to put here YES. So if they say yes, they have a coupon, I can do total equals. Now, I've done this wrong intentionally. There you go. Now I could put an else here, and I could say total equals. Well, there's no change to total here, right? Because if they have a coupon, we subtract $4. So actually, I'm going to just do it correctly. So I'm going to take whatever the total is, and I'm going to subtract $4. Else, they don't get a discount. So let's do system.out.println coupon applied. Okay? So now I go system.out.println. Your current total is total. Okay. So if I run this now, ooh, I have a problem with it. Let's check where our error is. The dreaded extra brace. This brace is just floating around there. That should solve our problems. Spectacular. So if I run this now, how old are you? Let's say I'm 35. My current price is $11. So you're charged $11 for a senior ticket. Oh, that's not right. Let's see what happened there. Notice I cut and pasted and forgot to change this because it's not a senior ticket, it's an adult ticket. Let's try this again. So I run this. Ooh. I'm 35. You are charged $11 for an adult ticket. Your total cost is currently $11. Now, do I have a coupon? And I say yes. So when I type yes, let's just make sure we know where we are in the code. It's printed out, do you have a coupon? I input yes, and when I hit enter, it's going to put yes into copt. So then when I come down to this if statement, it's going to say if copt is yes, and often I do this, because this generates a true or false statement. Either it's true, meaning they're the same, or it's false, meaning they're not the same. And I say coupon applied. So when I come in here and I hit enter, coupon applied, and my total is $7. So I hope this helped. Lots of different ideas in here. I expect this is going to spark some interesting discussions, so please do ask for clarification and any types of ideas that come from this. I do want to stress the point that I really want to recommend you stay away from using GUI until you're really comfortable with this logic. GUI is great, but it's just an added complication at this stage that we're not as concerned about as this type of logic. Have a great day.